Our whole lives, we've been carrying around a list. It's a list that nobody actually wrote down, yet we follow it as if it were the law of the land. Be pretty, be polite, be helpful, don't complain, don't be a burden, don't ask for too much. And we obey, my darling. We do it for years, for decades, without ever questioning it, without ever asking where those rules even came from. Until one day, and usually it's just an ordinary day, nothing special happening, you look at that list, and you feel something strange. It isn't anger. It isn't a midlife crisis. It's more like a quiet, heavy exhaustion. It's a tiny voice inside asking, does any of this actually still make sense? And that one question changes everything. Because once you start doubting one single line on that list, you start doubting all of them. Today, we're going to talk about 7 things that have been on that list our entire lives, and that, after 40, simply stop mattering. Hello, my darling. This is Diane, and welcome to Your Moment. If you're here, it's because something on that list I just described hit home for you. And I get it. I truly do. Because I carried mine for a very long time, too. I obeyed without asking questions. I also thought that was just how life worked. You follow the rules, you do everything right, and in exchange you get… what, exactly? I'm 45 years old, and what I can tell you with total honesty is that hitting 40 wasn't what I expected. It wasn't a crisis. It wasn't a breakdown. It was something much quieter than that. It was clarity. It was as if someone finally wiped down a foggy window I'd been looking through my entire life. Suddenly, I could see, with an almost uncomfortable sharpness, what actually mattered. And I saw the things that never really mattered at all, even though I used to treat them like life or death. And no, it's not just losing your patience. I know people love to sum it up that way. They say, oh, once a woman hits 40, she loses her filter. But that's not it. It has nothing to do with becoming bitter or indifferent. It's the opposite. It's about becoming more honest, lighter, more protective of your time, and more generous with yourself. It's looking at certain things you've been doing on autopilot and thinking, wait, why am I still doing this? Who am I even doing this for? And the answer, most of the time, is because nobody ever gave you permission to stop. Because nobody ever sat you down and said, you can let this go. Nothing bad is going to happen. So you just kept going, carrying it, smiling, making it all work, year after year. But today, we're having a different conversation. Today, I want to walk you through 7 things that simply stop mattering after 40. 7 weights we carry that we just don't need anymore. And the best part is, I'm not just going to tell you what to let go of. I'm going to show you what takes its place. Because when you drop what no longer serves you, you create space. And that space belongs to you. If you feel like you're in that season of looking at your own life and separating what's truly yours from what never was, you are in the right place. Stay with me. The first thing that stops mattering is other people's opinions. And I know you've heard this 1,000 times before. Don't care about what others think. It's the kind of line we repeat, put on a pretty Pinterest board, or share in the group chat with our girlfriends. And then we keep living exactly the same way. Because knowing you shouldn't care and actually feeling like you don't care are 2 completely different things. The truth is, we've spent decades shaping our choices based on how others see us. The career path you chose, the person you married, the outfit you wore, or decided not to wear, what you posted or what you deleted, what you said or what you bit your tongue on. Everything went through an invisible filter. What will they think of me? And that filter didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was installed early, very early. In childhood, when you were taught that a good girl is a quiet girl. In high school, when you learned that being accepted was safer than being yourself. And in your adult life, when every choice seemed to need someone else's stamp of approval, your mother's, your husband's, your neighbor's, or even a colleague's who doesn't even really like you. And the cost? It's enormous, but it's silent. It doesn't show up all at once. It shows up in that hesitation before you speak your mind, in that dress that stayed on the hanger because it was too much, in that dream of changing your life that died before it even became a plan, just because someone might think it was weird. It shows up in that version of you that kept getting smaller and smaller just to fit into everyone else's expectations. You didn't lose who you were, my darling. You just shrank yourself so you wouldn't be too much for anyone else. And then comes a point, usually after 40, where the weight just becomes too much to carry. Not because something dramatic happened, but because you're just tired. Tired of editing yourself. Tired of asking for permission to be who you are. Tired of coming home with the feeling that you spent the whole day playing a role that nobody officially asked for, but everyone expected. And when that exhaustion hits, something strange happens. The fear that used to paralyze you starts to lose its power. The opinions that used to control your decisions start to seem small. Not because those people went away, but because you finally realized that the only person whose approval you truly needed was your own. And do you know what takes its place? Your own opinion. Simple as that. It's not arrogance. It's not being selfish. It's you finally listening to yourself. It's swapping "what will they think" for "what do I think?" and letting that answer be enough. Because your opinion about your own life is the only one that needs to convince you. The second thing that stops mattering is the need to please everyone. And this one is tricky because it doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like a strength. She's so helpful. She never says no. You can always count on her. We grow up hearing those things as compliments, my darling. And without even realizing it, we turn people-pleasing into our life's mission. The pattern starts early. In childhood, you learned that pleasing others was the safest way to be loved. You learned that if you were the good girl, obedient, available, easy, things stayed peaceful, and it worked, or at least it seemed to. So you kept going. You said yes to the favor you didn't want to do. You said yes to the event you didn't want to attend. You said yes to the commitment that drained your very last drop of energy. You said yes so many times that the word no started to rust inside of you until you reached a point where you didn't even know how to say it without feeling a crushing sense of guilt. And that guilt, that's the anchor. Because even when you realize you're erasing yourself, guilt pops up and whispers, "But what if they get hurt? What if they think you've changed? What if you lose this friendship, this love, this position?" So you hesitate, you back down, you swallow what you were going to say, and you give in, again. Not because you want to, but because the price of disappointing someone feels too high to pay. But there is a price that nobody tells you about, the cost of pleasing everyone else all the time. It's exhaustion, it's silent resentment. It's that sudden spark of anger that hits you on a Sunday afternoon and you don't even know where it came from. It came from every time you said yes when you wanted to scream no. From every time you put yourself last because you thought that's what a good woman was supposed to do. And do you know what hurts the most? It's that at the end of the day, after you've taken care of everyone else, you lie down and realize that the only person who ended up with nothing was you. The calendar was full. The house was running. Everyone was cared for. Except you. So, what takes its place? The freedom to disappoint people without feeling guilty. It's not about being rude. It's not about turning your back on the world. It's about understanding that you are not here to make everyone happy. It's realizing that no is a complete sentence. And it's knowing that the people who truly love you aren't going to walk away just because you stopped sacrificing your soul for them. As for the ones who do leave, maybe they should have been gone a long time ago. The third thing that stops mattering is the perfect body. This is an old one, my darling. This started before you even understood what was happening. It started with an aunt's comment at Thanksgiving. "Oh, looks like you've put on a little weight, honey." It started with the magazines that taught you that beautiful was just a synonym for thin. It started when the scale became a courtroom and the mirror became your enemy. From that moment on, you went to war. A war against your own body that lasted years, decades. Diets that started on Monday and crashed by Wednesday. Clothes bought a size too small to serve as motivation. Photos where all you could see was the one thing you wanted to hide. Dinners where you ate like a bird so you wouldn't be judged, only to come home and eat in secret because you were actually starving. You spent your entire life treating your body like a project that was never finished. And the cruelest part? No matter what you did, it was never enough. You lost 10 pounds. Now you needed to lose 20. You joined the gym, but you didn't feel like you had the right body to wear the leggings everyone else was wearing. Every achievement was swallowed up by a new goal, a new flaw, a new comparison. Your body always owed something. It was always lacking. It always needed to be fixed. But here's the truth. That game has no end. It wasn't designed for you to win. It was designed to keep you trying, to keep you buying, to keep you feeling inadequate. Because a woman who is satisfied with her own body doesn't buy into what the industry is selling. Eventually, though, the exhaustion becomes greater than the shame. And usually, that happens after 40. Not because your body stopped changing, it's always been changing, but because you finally realize you've spent way too much energy fighting the only thing that's been with you since day one. Your body isn't the enemy. It never was. It's your home. It's the only thing that got you this far, with every mark, every change, and every year you've lived. And do you know what replaces the search for the perfect body? Respect. Real care. Not the kind of care that punishes you, but the kind that nourishes you. Not the exercise that serves as a penalty for dessert, but movement that exists because it makes you feel alive. Not the diet that forbids you from living, but the choices that give you the energy to enjoy your life. It's about trading the war for a peace treaty. It's realizing that this body you've criticized so much deserved, from the very beginning, the same kindness you've always offered to everyone else. Everyone except yourself. The fourth thing that stops mattering is the perfect home. This one is silent. Nobody really talks about it openly, but almost every woman feels it. The pressure to keep everything in its place. The towels folded just right. The sofa cushions fluffed. The kitchen scrubbed clean before you go to bed, even when you can barely keep your eyes open. And it's not just about cleaning, it's about what the house represents. Because at some point we learned, without anyone ever saying it out loud, that our home is a reflection of our value as women. A messy house means a lazy woman. Someone stops by and there are dishes in the sink? Shame. The laundry stayed in the dryer for 2 days? A silent failure. So you run, you tidy, you organize, you clean before you rest, you clean before you have fun, you clean before you actually live. It's as if the house needs to be perfect before you're given permission to breathe. You've become a hostage to the very place that was supposed to be your sanctuary. And the worst part? Nobody notices. No one walks in and says, "It's truly incredible how spotless this baseboard is." But everyone notices when it's not. You don't get credit for keeping everything in order. You only get judged when you don't. After 40, something shifts. You look at that pile of laundry and think, what if I just don't do this right now? And the world doesn't end. The house stays standing, and you discover something nobody ever taught you. Your home exists to serve you, my darling. Not the other way around. What takes its place is a home that is actually lived in. A home with signs of life. A coffee mug left on the table. A place where you truly rest, without feeling like you have to earn that rest first. The fifth thing that stops mattering is the image of having it all together. That mask is heavy, and the hardest part is that nobody forced you to put it on. You started wearing it yourself, little by little, because you learned that a strong woman doesn't cry in public. She doesn't ask for help. She doesn't break down. A strong woman handles it. She holds it all up. She gets it done. And you did get it done, my darling, for years. You held the household together when everything seemed to be falling apart. You held the marriage together when the loneliness became overwhelming. You held on to the job when your body was begging for rest. You held on to the smile when you were screaming inside. And everyone around you looked on and said, "I don't know how she does it." And you just smiled back. Because that's what was expected of you. But nobody ever asked how you actually were. Because the mask was too good. It was too convincing, and over time, even you started to believe it. You started to think that needing help was a weakness, that crying was losing control, that showing exhaustion was admitting you weren't enough. And so, you kept getting stronger on the outside and more alone on the inside. The weight of that doesn't show up all at once. It shows up as insomnia, as physical pain that has no explanation, as tears that come out of nowhere in the car between one appointment and the next. It shows up as that terrifying feeling that if you stop for 1 second, everything will crumble, including you. After 40, the question changes. It stops being, how do I hold all of this up? And starts being, why am I holding all of this up by myself? And that question is the beginning of something new. What replaces the mask is the courage to be seen as you truly are. Not as the woman who handles everything, but as the woman who feels, who gets tired, who has needs, and who keeps going anyway, not because she's pretending everything is fine, but because she's chosen to be honest about what isn't. And that, my darling, isn't weakness. It is the bravest way to be strong. The sixth thing that stops mattering is maintaining friendships out of obligation. You know exactly the ones I'm talking about, my darling. That friend who only calls to dump all her problems on you, but never once asks how you're doing. The one you keep around out of guilt because you've known each other for 20 years and it would be weird to drift apart now. The one who invites you to everything, but around whom you can never truly be yourself. You laugh. You participate. You reply to the texts. But you leave every single encounter feeling more exhausted than when you arrived. We keep these relationships going for one simple reason: fear. Fear of looking ungrateful. Fear of being alone. Fear that cleaning out your circle means that you are the problem. So you keep going. You stay active in the group chat. You go to the birthday party. You pretend everything is fine. But inside, you feel a weight that should never exist in a relationship called friendship. True friendship doesn't drain your soul. If it's exhausting, it's not a friendship. It's an obligation with a pretty name. After 40, something changes. You stop having the energy to maintain anything that isn't authentic. Not out of coldness, but out of honesty. Because time starts to feel different. You look at your calendar, your weekend, your vacation time, and you realize you don't want to spend those precious hours with people who make you feel small, judged, or invisible. You want people who truly know you, who understand your silence, who don't need subtitles to know what you're feeling. What takes its place is a smaller circle, much smaller, but honest. Just a few people, maybe 2 or 3, with whom you can be completely yourself. No performance, no filters, no guilt. And that trade-off, my darling, is worth more than any contact list full of people who don't actually know the real you. The seventh, and perhaps the most profound thing that stops mattering, is the fear of being alone. This fear is old, my darling, perhaps the oldest one of all. It didn't just stem from one specific experience. It was born from everything all at once. From a culture that taught you that a woman on her own is an incomplete woman. From the movies that always ended with someone finding their other half. From the questions that started in your teens and never really stopped. Are you seeing anyone? When are you getting married? Are you really going to stay all by yourself? And that fear shaped decisions that should have been yours alone. You stayed in relationships that were already over, because leaving meant being alone. You accepted company that added nothing to your life, because silence felt dangerous. You said yes to invitations you didn't want to accept, because an empty Saturday night felt like a failure. The fear of being alone kept you in places and relationships that you outgrew a long time ago. And nobody talks about how much that costs. It costs you your peace. It costs you your energy. It costs you that version of yourself that only shows up when nobody is watching, the one who is lighter, calmer, and more authentic. That version of you exists, but she needs space. And space, by definition, is empty. Your whole life, you were taught that emptiness must be filled. But after 40, something begins to shift. The silence that used to be scary starts to feel comfortable. That night at home with no plans stops feeling like loneliness and starts feeling like a choice. That solo breakfast stops being sad and becomes a ritual. You begin to realize there is a massive difference between being alone and being lonely. And for years, you've been confusing the two. Being lonely is feeling empty while around others. Being alone is feeling whole while being with yourself. And do you know what replaces that fear? The discovery, slow, beautiful, and sometimes a little intimidating, that your own company is enough. It's not a consolation prize. It's not, at least I have myself. It is the genuine realization that you are a person worth spending time with, that your silence has depth, that your presence, even when it's just for you, has value. And when you reach that place, your relationships change because you stop looking for someone to fill the void and you start choosing who is worthy enough to share in your fullness. 7 things. 7 weights we carried for far too long, thinking they were ours to bear. Other people's opinions, the need to please, the perfect body, the spotless home, the image of having it all together, friendships out of obligation, and the fear of being alone. And do you know what I realize when I look at this list? It didn't get lighter because you got harder, my darling. It got lighter because you got more authentic. Because at some point, you decided you had carried enough. You decided that what wasn't yours could be given back. You realized that the space left behind wasn't a void. It was freedom. And maybe you're still in the middle of this process. Maybe you've dropped 2 or 3 of these weights, and the others are still there, hanging on, feeling heavy. That's okay. You don't have to solve it all today. What matters is that you've started to question it. And questioning is already the beginning of letting go. If this video is resonating with you, let me know in the comments, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our upcoming videos. I want to ask you one last question. Out of these 7 things, which was the first one you let go of? Or which one do you need to drop the most right now? Tell me. I read everything. Take care of her. She's waited long enough. I'll see you next week, my darling.